Welcome to Why I Left, a podcast that explores the Great Resignation. I'm your host, Brian Akar. Join me as I chronicle real stories from real people about the reasons they decided to leave their jobs during the pandemic and what has happened since. Welcome to another episode of the Why I Left podcast. In today's episode, I chat with Valeria Colato. Valeria is currently a customer success associate in the tech industry across the pond in Ireland. She's a natural extrovert who was heavily impacted during the shutdowns of the pandemic, but she was able to use available resources to determine where her values truly lied. I especially appreciated her openness during our discussion, so let's go check it out. All right, hello. All right, so our guest today is Valeria Colato. Valeria works in the tech industry as a customer success associate. She's always been passionate about helping others, and it's really showed in her prior work in retail, as a flight attendant, and now in the tech space. I'm really excited for her to share her journey today, during and after joining the Great Resignation. So hi, Valeria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here with you today here.
So now, obviously, this show is about the Great Resignation, and we're definitely going to get there, right? But before we get into that, well, I'd love for the people to just get a better sense as to who you are, where you're from, and where you currently call home.
Sure. So, I'm originally from Brazil, from a small Brazilian capital right in the heart of South America. It's called Cuiabá. That's where I was raised, where I got my degree in communications, and where I started my professional life working for a telecom company as a customer service representative, and also in sales. From Cuiabá, I lived in São Paulo, where I studied and worked a bit more. And then when I was 21, I started going through a hiring process with Emirates. So I was invited to work for them in Dubai, where I lived for 3 years. It was a great, fantastic opportunity to travel the world while working and getting to know different cultures, different nationalities. An experience that I highly recommend to anyone that has the same dreams that I had back in the days. And then after 3 years in Emirates, I got back to Cuiabá and started working for advertising agencies as account manager, and I just loved it. It was a great opportunity to learn how to grow accounts, to build a strategic relationship with clients. And then eventually my husband got his Italian citizenship recognized, and we had that chance to move to Europe. And we've chosen Ireland as our home, and so far so great. It's a great country to live. We have a great quality of living, and the Irish people are just fantastic. We feel very welcomed here. And we got here in 2017. My first job was in marketing, my second job as well. So in total is around 2007, like 4 years and a half in the marketing field, where I got great opportunities, worked with amazing large Irish brands, worked with wonderful people. And then the pandemic hit. Then got it. Things changed.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to talk about that as well. So now, when you think about some of the things that have driven you in the past, right? You've got a wide-ranging experience from retail to, I've never flown Emirates, but I've heard it's amazing. So I'm sure that's an experience and then some. So what are some of the things that have driven you?
I think, as you mentioned, I'm an extrovert, and wherever experience that has this interpersonal relationships where I need to build and maintain trust and service, I think that's what kind of gives me the thrills. In Emirates, it is expected from the client that you provide an excellent customer service, a flawless service on board on a 40,000 feet high. So the pressure comes from all sides, from the environment, from the client's expectations, from your employer as well, because Emirates, they train you, but they also make sure that you are keeping up with the standards. So I think delivering that standard when you're a natural born people person, that makes life easier. So I think the people factor of whatever I've worked in my life was definitely what motivated me.
That's great. And now prior to your latest opportunity, what's been your experience in the workforce, and what are some of the things that have worked well in the environments that you've been a part of?
Sure. I think obviously whatever had its people element, either internal or external clients, were key, but also that's something that Emirates couldn't provide, and that's something that's a reason why I left the flight attendant career. That wasn't a career that I want to pursue for a long term. It's projects and achieving a target or a goal. So whenever I add the people element with goal achieving objectives and clear objectives, I think that's where there's a great combination of elements that, for me personally, makes an ideal work environment, and that's where I feel like I can thrive.
No, that's great. And now it sounds like you've found this in this kind of marketing space or customer service or customer success space. So tell us a little bit about kind of what do those type of roles entail?
Well, I think the difference between, let's say, marketing and the customer success associate position, my previous position in marketing, I was a brand manager. So I would
Hmm.
manage projects related to the brand, of course, but in more specifically in how to increase the general knowledge of our brand across various publics. There had the people element because I had to liaise with lots of internal clients, different stakeholders within the company, lots of team working and project management. And a big factor of project management is managing the people that is involved with that certain project.
Absolutely.
But my main KPI was not related to the relationships that I was building with these people. Of course, my main KPIs were related to project completion within budget and within the deadlines, and some sort of and how successful those projects were. I had to have a great interpersonal relationship to be successful on delivering those projects. So the people part was just one of the skills that was necessary for my main goals in that company. So that's the difference now as a customer success associate, where the main skill that is required for this role is being a people person, someone that actually can empathize, put the client's needs at first, and from there build trust and create value within that relationship.
No, that's great to hear. That's a little education for myself because I know when we had initially met, I wasn't familiar with the term customer success associate. So I appreciate not only the education for me, but also for the listeners. So you were in a role for about 4 years, and then we're going to talk about. So look, things happen in March, right? This COVID pandemic hits the world, right? And I think if you're in Ireland at that time, it kind of the wave came kind of from you all first before it came to the US. So talk to us a little bit about how the pandemic affected you.
If you allow me, I'll go just a bit before the pandemic, because I started
Sure.
this position in marketing in September 2018. And my main goal was to work hard to get a career, to establish myself as a brand manager and maybe get a promotion within a couple of years. But also another goal that I had with my husband was buying a house. So we worked hard, we saved our money, we managed to buy the house. And then I was feeling that I liked marketing, but something was lacking. But I was like, okay, maybe I'm not working hard enough. Maybe I'm not showing off my best work. So I was putting lots of pressure on myself to work even harder every day to, make an impact. And then March 2020 happened. And I remember the exact time frame. I remember Friday, the 13th of March, when we were told at the office, okay, guys, get our laptops. Don't need to come back to the office. I remember, I think it was Wednesday that week when we were at the reception of the office with the receptionist watching the TV, when it was announced on the TV that the schools were going to get closed because of COVID. So it was very strange. I got home on the Friday 13th. My husband had a fever. So we're trying to get tested. So it was a big blur of events. And then on the Monday, the 16th of March, we started working from home. And by the way, my birthday was the 17th of March. That's why I have, which is
Okay.
which
Okay.
fun fact, it's St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, the biggest holiday. So
Yes.
yeah, it's somehow
Yes.
it happens to be my birthday as well. So that's why I remember those facts so vividly
Hmm.
in my head. So yeah, so Monday 16th had to work from home, opening the laptop. I was living in a small apartment with my husband and my sister-in-law. Lots of people who live here know how hard the living situation in Ireland is. Actually, at that stage, my husband and I were thinking of buying a home. Sorry, I don't know if I made that clear before when I was mentioning we ended up buying in October 2020. But that was one of my goals with that job as well, to be successful and be able to afford to buy in a house, because the housing is an issue in Ireland. But when the pandemic hit, we were sharing an apartment. So my husband and I and my sister-in-law had to share this small apartment and working from home, all of us three, while we had to self-isolate because my husband had a fever and we didn't know, we couldn't get tested. So just out of precaution, we just stayed at home for 2 full weeks. So that's when I started to figure out the routine and opening the laptop, logging on, getting on calls, setting up Zoom and Teams and all those tools to make sure we could properly work from home. The company was good enough to give us a fully paid month to just stay at home. And I think that was April or May
Wow.
2020. We were very fortunate for that. It was just weird. I would wake up and the feeling, I learned about this word. And I think that's the feeling that permeated this past 2 years, and it was languishing. It was that feeling of waking up, okay, what am I going to do next? Should I go for a walk? Should I just do some exercising? And sometimes the weather is not great in Ireland. So it was a very strange feeling. So by the time we're back and working again after that month off, it was just a matter of adapting myself to the new routine, and also as an extrovert, adapting myself to the fact that I wouldn't have those real life interactions with other people that normally energizes me.
No, that makes sense. Speaking from a fellow extrovert, I can definitely understand where you're coming from. So now, how did the pandemic really start to affect the relationship with your job?
I think it was something that at first I was trying to figure out why I wasn't feeling okay in my job. And I didn't want to blame the pandemic, because I was like, oh my God, I'm so fortunate. I can work from home, and the company gave me a full month, fully paid, to stay at home. So I was working hard to be positive about everything, because I was feeling unhappy. Somehow I was feeling unhappy, but I couldn't figure out why. I was just taking the blame. I was thinking that I was not working hard enough, or I was not being grateful enough. So I was working on my gratitude. I heard lots of podcasts about gratitude. I read everything. I did lots of mindfulness courses and sessions until
Mm-hmm.
I said, like, and I couldn't feel like myself still. And then I was like, you
Right.
know what? I think it's okay to seek for help. And that's a taboo that I would like to talk about. And I don't know if there's a term in English to break the taboo. We say that in Brazil. Like
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's yeah.
this,
Destigmatize is
yeah,
something we say.
is
Yeah.
therapy. So that's when I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I need help. I need help to figure out what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling, and is there anything or anyone to blame? I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to be unfair with myself or with my peers or with my employers. So I sought help. So I started seeing a therapist in May 2020, and my husband as well. So as a couple, we thought that it would be something helpful for our relationship as well to seek for help. So he was seeing his therapist, I was started seeing mine. So we started solving our own personal emotional issues, and that helped me a lot to untangle my emotions and my understanding of what was going on in my head and my relation with my work.
No, that's great to hear. And I want to say just, I appreciate, you being open with that information during these times. It's important for folks to know the benefits of therapy. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So, all right. So now you're in this role for about 4 years. You've started to seek some help and get some resources as to why you're feeling some of the ways you're feeling. But eventually, in December 2021, you decide, hey, it's time for me to leave this role, and you join the Great Resignation. I don't know if you knew it was called the Great Resignation at the time, but you leave your job. So ultimately, why did you leave your job during the
Sure.
pandemic?
So yeah, so 2021 was quite pivotal. Yeah, that for me personally, because 2020 was a big blur, untangling lots of feelings, emotions, and figuring out why I was feeling. Of course, we know why the main reason why us all were feeling weird for those times. There was a global pandemic going on, lots of bad news, lots of
Hmm.
negativity, and our brains and the negativity bias just works in full steam, just putting us ourselves in a sort of a spiral of negativity. And I created awareness about that. I learned how to identify the triggers for negativity and to cope with those triggers. But then in relation to my work in 2021, I then saw a coach as well. I was like, I won a set of coaching sessions with an amazing coach in Ireland. And then I was like, oh God, I'm seeing a therapist. Should I see a coach as well? And it was for free. I was like, why not? Like the more the merrier. And their work are different. A psychologist would talk to you about deeper things that your emotions and your relationships. And a coach is much more practical. She or he, they will say, okay, what's working, what's not. So it's actually quite complementary. And then that coach helped me to figure out, okay, what are your main qualities? What are the things that you think they need more attention, that you want to develop more? And I started to go through a route that I learned more about myself. And okay, what is my top skill? What is the thing that people always complimented me about? How do I thrive? And what kind of environment do I like? And lots of questions like this helped me to kind of create this vision board of what an ideal company and an ideal job role would look like for me. And that's when I had that clear map and a clear vision. I was like, okay, maybe it's time to burn the bridge, to cross that bridge and burn it. Don't look back and trust the process. Eventually, the great resignation started happening. I saw that other people across the globe was doing the same. Actually, millions of people were doing the same. My husband did that in
Yeah.
September 2021. He just like, you know what? I'll quit. Okay, I know that I'm privileged and fortunate enough to manage to have some financial security. We did have some savings, and that allowed us to do this bold move of quitting without having nothing in the radar, no job, no new job aligned. Other friends did the same. Other people that didn't have the financial security that we had, they managed to find another job while still in their old jobs, which was not my case. I was very tired and I couldn't, on my spare time, have the fresh head to look for a job, which is very energy consuming as well. So I just decided to quit. I had the clarity of what I was going to look for. Although I made the main decision in December. I was ruminating this decision for a long time. But coaching and therapy and talking to friends, getting inspiration from other stories like this, it just got me in the right mindset of thanking my older employer, my previous employer, and informing them that I would leave, although I didn't have anything aligned at that moment as a new job. I was confident that things would go okay.
Yeah. And so, how did that feel, and how did it impact you to make that decision?
It was really hard. I had a great relationship with my boss, with my peers. I think it was a bit of a shock for everyone, even for myself. Although, of course, until the moment that I handed over my notice, I prepared myself. I made all the possible existing rationalization about that decision. But it was a mix of fear, but faith. The
I
fear,
like that.
fear was there for sure, but I made sure that the faith was there, like the trust that things would be okay. Ireland, I don't know how things are in the US at the moment. In Brazil, I know it's quite worse than Ireland, and I'm talking about employment rates and the quality of the jobs available. So that also would affect my decision depending on where I was living. But in Ireland, I knew how the market is, and I kind of had decided in my heart what kind of career I was going for. So I was confident. So I had the fear. I was fearful. I know it sounds funny. I was fearful, but I had the confidence to balance it out.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because even here in the US, yes, there are multiple people, millions of people continually resigning from their jobs, but a lot of them feel confident because there are so many other jobs that are still available, right? And so there's this movement there, obviously this is a podcast about the Great Resignation, but I've seen a lot of different names around great reshuffle, great reorganization, great recognition, whatever the case may be, right? Everyone's trying to coin a term. But yeah, I think it's similar things are happening here in the US. So now you leave the role, right? This was December. And so tell us a little bit about what's happened since you left.
Sure. One thing on the previous phase that I didn't mention, Brian, is that in my head, before I created the confidence, when the fear was kind of taking over what I was feeling, was the main feeling in my heart, I was like, okay, I'm not happy here. I'm not so sure. I don't have 100% of clarity of what I'm going for next, but I need a break. And I need my calculations, okay, to pay the mortgage, to pay my bills, to have a quite okay standard of living, how much I would need to earn. And I was like, you know what? I would go to work in a coffee shop. Like I would change my life standards just in order to readjust and regroup and take my time to define what is my next move. So I was open, and at some stage I was open to get whatever job in case it was necessary, in case I didn't get, just to take my time to get clarity about, okay, what's my next challenge. That wasn't necessary. Things worked out okay, but I was open. I was like, I don't care. I will take any job just to have a break of my current mindset and mind state. Yeah, so December I handed over my notice. I spent Christmas in Ireland, and I planned a trip to Brazil in January so I could spend some time with my family. At that stage, it was 2 years. It completed 2 years that I haven't seen my family and friends. My husband hadn't seen his family and friends for 4 years at that moment. So we both are like, priorities now, let's go home. So for me, it's easy to explain this because geographically, it's home is just like literally catching on a plane and flying to somewhere where we feel love and we feel support and unconditional support and love. But for some people, sometimes they are close to their family and they're still feeling languishing and insecure and unsure. For those people, I recommend to find your happy place, connect to whatever makes you feel good with no judgments, with no second thoughts. Just connect to yourself, connect to what makes you feel good, connect to whatever brings you the feeling that you've been supported. And for us, there is this literal situation of boarding on a plane and arriving at our parents' home and getting that hug and that nice chats and reconnecting to our roots. And that definitely made a massive difference for us. We spent a month in Brazil in this January. So I got back fully recharged with great clarity about what I wanted and just started working on updating my CV, my LinkedIn networking, reaching out to friends. And it was an incredible process. It was incredible.
Yeah. And then you ended up landing something, right? And so because how I found out about you was through a hashtag Great Resignation thread that I follow often. So now you ended up landing something. Tell us about, what you're doing now and what you pivoted into.
Sure. Just about the process, how I got here, it was just crazy. And that's something that I'm very thankful. I thank myself for doing that back in the days, was creating a great network of friends and people and professionals, being connected to people from different industries and I'm just naturally curious. So I could reach out to people and ask for help and ask for referrals. Here in Ireland, the referral culture is very strong. And whoever is referring you, you just ask if they could meet you for either a virtual or a real life coffee. Ask for, like, it's crazy because we think we're showing some weakness or too much vulnerability when we ask for help, but not at all. If someone asks you help, you'll help anyone. Like we do help people, so why not accept help and ask for help? So that made a huge difference. I got great support for my network, and ends up that my current boss, he got my personality off the bat. It was like as if the stars aligned and things went so smoothly. I landed on an interview. In a week, they were offering me a job. I landed on conversations and interviews with other companies and even with managers in a competitor. That it's this incredible lady just got me so inspired because I was kind of insecure. I was like, I don't know, how do I Do I stand in the market? Because I don't come from tech. I don't have the customer success experience. And she just told me,
Right.
like, look, you have what the customer success position require. You have clarity, you communicate well, and you care about people. So she made me confident about my skill set, my soft skill set, and that got me the confidence to go through the interviewing process super naturally and just being myself, which I've missed. And one thing I
Yeah.
had on my vision board for as a career and as an ideal career and ideal job was a place that could be multicultural, that I had great and clear KPIs and objectives, and that the people skill would be the main skill required. And somehow all the stars
Yeah.
aligned, and I started my new job on 21st of March. So right after my birthday, it was a great birthday present.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? 21st of March, that's actually
Ah,
my birthday. So, so
yeah.
that's great to hear. So look, so your vision board, and I really like I know a lot of people who kind of go through that process of doing the vision board and all that, and it brings this level of clarity that it seems like you've really found. And then you landed in this role and you seem to be thriving, which is awesome to hear. So now, one of the pieces that I like to at least get to our listeners, right? Because look, there are a lot of folks who could be in similar situations. So, what advice would you give to our listeners who may have a similar experience to yours, but really don't know what to do
I
next?
think first would be look inside. We have the answers. Our gut feelings, sometimes we tend to ignore them, but they're there for a reason. So when you feel something in your gut, try to experience quietness for a while and just to hear what that feeling has to say. Don't underestimate your natural self or who you are. We tend to always focus on what's lacking, so we tend to always try a different course or a different diploma or a different skill set. But sometimes when we do that, we forget that we have a few things that are natural in us that we tend to ignore and do not give the value that it deserves. And all of a sudden we feel lost. It's just because we're disconnected from our nature self. So that's my main advice. So if you feel like you're languishing, you're not sure, you're not happy at your job, look inside. The answer is inside. Be confident about who you are, be confident about what you have to bring on the table. If you're not a kid, if you're not a teenager anymore, you have an experience, you've done something in your life. Look at your life story, value your accomplishments, and speak about them with pride. That will make you shine during their interview process, and trust the process. I know fear and uncertainty, it will show up and sometimes take over your head, but just feel like, okay, welcome those feelings because we're human beings. There's no way to go through such a overwhelming process without not feeling fear. But when we welcome those fears and those feelings, but we know that deep inside, they're just part of the process. And this process is going to end up okay. Things will happen. Things will smoothly unfold in front of you, and you hopefully will achieve your goals.
No, that's right. And it goes right with your theme you were talking about earlier, having that fear yet having faith, right? That faith in yourself. So I really appreciate you mentioning that. So Valeria, look, this was a great discussion. Your honesty, your vulnerability, and really sharing your story today is really something that I hope people resonate with. I connected with it as well, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us. Sorry. So now, before we get out of here, would love to. I met you on LinkedIn, right? And so, where can people follow you, support you? Where can we check you out?
Yeah, Valeria Colato on LinkedIn. That's how you can find me. And I'll be more than happy to connect you with whoever sends me a connection request and answer any question or tell a bit more about my journey. So feel free to find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Well, look, that'll do it for today's episode. Again, I want to thank Valeria Colato for joining us today. I'll make sure I share her information in our show notes. So, Valeria, hope you have a great day and hope everyone has a great week. I'll see you next time. The Great Resignation, people leaving their jobs in droves. There's a lot of buzz happening in the job market of late. Now, did you or someone you know leave your job during the pandemic and want to share your story? We've been having some really good conversations in this space. So if you're interested, I'd love to have you join the program. If so, here's how you can do it. First, you can email us at hello@whyiLeft.co. That's hello@whyiLeft.co. Or visit us online at whyiLeft.co. That's whyiLeft.co. Look forward to having you join the conversation. Thanks again for listening to Why I Left. Be sure to join us next time for more stories from the Great Resignation. Visit us at www.whyiLeft.co. That's whyiLeft.co. And subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.